There is a very common, very rigid piece of advice in photography. Avoid wide-angle lenses for portraits. The reasoning seems sound on the surface. If you get too close with a short focal length, you risk unflattering, unnatural distortion. If your only goal is a classic, tightly framed headshot, that advice holds true. The mistake, however, is assuming that avoiding distortion is the only goal of portraiture. The true power of a wide-angle lens isn't just its expansive field of view, it is its profound effect on perspective. By understanding how to control that perspective, you can take the so-called wrong lens and create compelling portraits with a massive sense of place and narrative. Today, we are going to look at how to use a wide-angle lens for portraiture, not by breaking the rules, but by exploiting its specific optical properties to achieve a completely different kind of result. First, it is important to acknowledge why conventional portrait lenses, like an 85mm or 105mm, are the industry standard. They are exceptional tools for a highly specific task. A longer lens compresses perspective. This naturally renders facial features in a flattering, proportionate way, and it aggressively isolates the subject by turning the background into a wash of soft bouquet. This technique forces all of the viewer's attention directly onto the person and their expression. They are reliable and deliver technically beautiful results. The limitation, however, is that this extreme isolation can quickly become repetitive. When every portrait exists in a nondescript, blurry void, you surrender the opportunity to tell a visual story about the subject's relationship with their environment. You show the person, but you erase their world. To include the environment as an active participant in the narrative, you need a tool that adds context instead of stripping it away. This is where the wide-angle lens thrives, environmental portraiture. Its purpose is not to isolate the subject, but to embed them firmly within their surroundings. The key to mastering this is leveraging the very characteristic people fear: perspective exaggeration. What is widely considered a flaw actually becomes your most functional tool. By exaggerating depth, a wide-angle lens can make a space feel vast, commanding, and dynamic. This requires a complete shift in your approach behind the camera. Your objective is no longer just to photograph a face, but to compose an entire scene where the person acts as the focal anchor. To execute this, you must understand how to direct the lens to render space intentionally. Let's break down exactly how this works using an image I shot right here in Sedona. Take a close look at this portrait. This image relies entirely on wide-angle characteristics to work, and it demonstrates three critical techniques you need to master. First, shooting from a low angle with close proximity. Notice how the camera is positioned low and close to the subject. This angle forces the viewer to look slightly up, creating an imposing, anchored presence while instantly communicating the short focal length. It creates an intimacy that a telephoto lens shot from 50 feet away simply cannot replicate. Second, accentuated perspective. Look at the massive red rock formation dominating the background. Because of the wide-angle perspective, the vertical lines of those towering rocks naturally converge as they reach toward the dramatic sky. This keystoning effect is a classic wide-angle hallmark, and using the natural environment to emphasize it creates a profound sense of scale and power. Third, distortion management through subject placement. If you place a face near the extreme edges of a wide-angle frame, the rectilinear stretching will ruin the portrait. The solution is simple but crucial. Center your subject. In this portrait, the subject is perfectly centered. The facial features remain natural and undistorted, but we still retain that massive, sweeping environmental context all around them. A quick technical note on shooting scenes like this. When you are dealing with a bright, dynamic sky competing against shadowed foregrounds, exposure is critical. Always check the histogram for your darkest shot and make sure the right side isn't clipped. You want to preserve that dramatic sky data without losing your subject to the shadows. If we compare a wide-angle environmental shot to an 85mm studio shot, the difference in purpose is night and day. One is a study of a face, the other is a study of a person within their world. To apply this to your own photography, remember these core rules. Center your subject. Keep faces away from the hard edges of the frame to entirely mitigate unwanted facial distortion. Build with layers. Use close proximity to create distinct foregrounds against massive backgrounds to force a three-dimensional feel. Control perspective. Get low and shoot up to make elements loom, or get high and shoot down. Use the natural distortion of lines as a compositional tool, not a mistake. Connect the subject and environment. Ensure the setting actually adds to the story of the person in the frame. The wide angle is only the wrong lens if your objective is a traditional, isolated portrait. If your goal is to tell a story that includes the environment, it is arguably the most effective tool in your bag. Technical rules in photography are meant to provide a baseline for predictable results. True craft comes from understanding your tools so thoroughly that you know exactly how to use their inherent characteristics to serve a specific creative vision. I highly encourage you to experiment with a lens you don't typically use for a certain task. Stop fighting its optical properties and start working with them. If you found this breakdown useful, be sure to subscribe to Al Judge Photography for more deep dives into the technical craft of photography. Get out there, experiment, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's keep it simple.